Ever since 2005, developer TT Games have been a mainstay for the LEGO game franchise, with the first LEGO Star Wars in the 6th generation of consoles. And with that success, the series has since expanded into other franchises like Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings. And thankfully, not every LEGO game is exactly an adaptation of its source material, as they would show with their games based on superheroes. Obviously starting with DC Comics, of course, because Warner Brothers, but also with DC's main rival, Marvel Comics, with the latter being what I'm going to talk about today. The story of LEGO Marvel Superheroes follows said heroes after the Silver Surfer arrives on Earth and getting blasted by Dr. Doom. The Silver Surfer loses his powers and his board gets destroyed into many cosmic bricks. Worse yet, Dr. Doom seems to be a part of a greater dark cause led by Loki, leaving it up to Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. to unite the largest superhero team possible. From Avengers such as Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, the Hulk, Thor, and Spider-Man, to the Fantastic Four, and even the X-Men. As said at the start, the game follows an original storyline not based on any comic issue whatsoever, but does reference certain storylines and hell, looks aesthetically like the films, particularly the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like any LEGO game, it's simple, funny, and it works. The gameplay is what you would expect out of a LEGO game. A simple, cooperative platformer where you must complete simple objectives to beat the level, with the option to gather collectibles, but you may not get them all the first round if you lack characters with the needed abilities. Alongside that is an openly explorable New York City, which serves as the hub world. In a similar fashion as other open world games, there are many smaller side quests to do, with several bonus missions that unlock after the story, containing the wacky narration of Deadpool. And with all this, compared to some of the past LEGO games I played, going through all the missions alone is a bit lengthy. But as with even the shorter LEGO games, it's complemented by quite a bit of extra content, making it worth replaying for completionists. And speaking of variety, wow! There is a lot in its character roster. Sure, there is a bit of an aesthetic that closely resembles what the Marvel Cinematic Universe aims for, but with the appearance of the X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four, Blade, Daredevil, and even some not as well-known characters in Marvel's backlog, it's perhaps one of the most varied Marvel games to date. And thankfully, most if not all characters all have their most known abilities. Like Wolverine with his claws, scent, and regeneration, Iron Man with his suits and their gadgets, Captain America with his vibranium shield, Spider-Man with his spidey sense and web swinging, you get the idea. Now, the simplistic gameplay of LEGO still plays as well as you'd expect here, but sadly, I find to have more fun with single player in this one than I do co-op in many of the past ones, mainly with how the split screen is set up. Sure, it's there so we don't have to wait for the other player who's trailing behind, but is there any reason the split screen must move around as your characters move? It just makes it so disorienting and confusing to see. But this isn't a problem if you have the Wii U version of the game, where each player has their own screen. First player with the Wii U pad, second player with the Pro Controller, and that to me makes the co-op a bit more pleasant. But at the very least, I don't think the split screen should go away, at least try to keep it more stationary like other multiplayer games with split screen. And on the tech front, the game does crash on occasion, but you almost forget they happen. Putting that aside, the graphics of the game look gorgeous, as the LEGO minifigures look pretty realistic for their time, and the game's environment, even with details like the city lights of New York City being so vibrant, and like much of the comics that inspired it, burst with color. Overall, piece it together and LEGO Marvel Superheroes is yet another worthy entry in the LEGO games by TT Games. Really only bogged down by its dizzying split screen, its variety as fan service to Marvel Superheroes and fans of the series should never go unnoticed. LEGO Marvel Superheroes gets an 8 out of 10.